Virginia landlords, you have laws that are changing July 1, 2025 that you need to be aware of. I want to cover 3 in this video. Please note that I am not an attorney. If you need legal advice, please speak with an attorney. This is just my opinion. I'm just trying to get some information out so that landlords are operating within the law. HB 2430. This essentially looks like an amendment from HB 967 from 2024 session. In 2024, HB 967 came out and that caused a lot of confusion. Basically, it states that all fees that could possibly be charged to a tenant throughout the tenancy need to be listed in one single list, and the list needs to begin on the first page of the lease. Now, a lot of people thought the intent was to list all the recurring fees that could possibly be charged per month, included in rent or additional to rent, but per month payments, and list them there to be completely transparent, which is great. But how the law was written was that all fees that could possibly be charged to the tenant need to be listed. And then there was a required statement to add in the lease that says, no fee shall be collected unless it is listed below or incorporated into this agreement by way of a separate addendum or execution of this rental agreement. So you could see how that would cause confusion. And it sounds like any fee that could possibly be charged to the tenant needs to be included in that list. So a lot of people included all of the possible fees that could ever be charged in that list, which is still okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but that also caused confusion for the tenants that were signing leases. HB 2430 cleaned that up a bit, and I think kind of clarified the original intent. So definitely for fee transparency, which is great, it's changed to a landlord shall provide, beginning on the first page of the written rental agreement, an itemization of all charges to the tenant that comprise of the security deposit, the amount of rent due per payment period pursuant to the lease period, and any additional one-time charges due prior to the commencement date of the rental agreement or that will be included in the first rental payment. Immediately above the itemized list of charges, the written rental agreement shall state, no additional security deposits or rent shall be charged unless they are listed below or incorporated into this agreement by way of a separate addendum after execution of this rental agreement. So this cleans it up a lot. This basically says, okay, we can clean that up. We need to change the statement in the lease, the required statement. We need to update that according to HB 2430. And then the list only needs to provide the charges that are essentially recurring due before or with the first payment or within the security deposit. Now, we're actually going to keep all of our fees listed. We believe in that transparency. We have links all over the rental application and in our marketing and everything like that that state to our tenant fee schedule so they can see exactly what we charge and why and what is optional and what's not and things like that. So we're actually going to keep the full list that we've already cleaned up, put in our lease that begins on page 1. We're just going to update that required statement to make sure that that is in accordance with the law. HB 1867. Now, this states that a landlord who owns more than 4 rental dwelling units or more than 10% interest in more than 4 rental dwelling units, whether individually or through a business entity in the Commonwealth, shall be required to provide written notice to any tenant that has the option to renew a rental agreement or whose rental agreement contains an automatic renewal provision of any increase in rent during the subsequent rental agreement term. Such landlord shall also provide written notice of non-renewal to any tenant. Such notices shall be provided to the tenant no less than 60 days prior to the end of the rental agreement term. Now, to summarize that, in my opinion, in my interpretation, you need to provide 60 days notice or more when you non-renew a tenant. I think that's essentially what's been added as a part of HB 1867. So if your current lease states that a landlord can non-renew with 30 days notice, in my opinion, that would not be legal after July 1st in 2025. Now, this likely does not apply to periodic tenancy, meaning like month to month, but check with an attorney, read the law, make sure that your lease is within the bounds of the law. In my opinion, our leases at peak ask for 90-day notice period. So we're well within the law. We have to provide 90 days written notice for non-renewal or lease termination, etc. Our tenant also has to match that 90-day requirement. If you are updating your lease from a 30 or 45-day notice period and you're changing it to 60 to be compliant with the law, I would also recommend that it's not just on the landlord side, that you update it for any notice of termination or non-renewal. So if the tenants decide to non-renew, in my opinion, and to make sure that your lease is clear and no one's confused, that both parties have to abide by the same 60-day rule. That's what I would do if I were changing my lease. I would make sure that the tenant also needs to provide a 60-day notice of non-renewal. Moving on to HB 2218. This prohibits a landlord subject to the Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act from charging a tenant any fee for the collection or processing of any payment of rent, security deposit, or any other fees unless the landlord offers an alternative method of payment that does not include additional fees. So if you're going to charge a convenience fee or you're going to charge some sort of fee to collect fees or rent or security deposit payments or anything like that, you must also provide an alternative method of payment that does not include additional fees. It must be free for the tenant if they want to choose that option. This law also stipulates that landlords who have 4 or fewer rental properties or up to a 10% stake in 4 or fewer rental properties are not required to accept payment through debit and credit card. Now, that was a governor addition. I'm not sure, there's nothing that says any of the larger portfolio landlords have to accept that. It just says that the landlords who have 4 or fewer rental properties or up to a 10% stake in 4 or fewer rental properties are not required to accept debit or credit as a payment method. If you have questions or want more clarification, be sure to talk to your local attorney. This should apply to Virginia real estate investors, Virginia landlords. Get more news, information, and insights by following the Virginia Investor Podcast pages on social media. We look forward to having you as a part of the VIP community.